Welcome. This is Unit 1, Week 3. I'm just going to talk about the vocabulary. Vocabulary, little tidbits that might show up on a quiz. French and Indian War, the 7 Years' War that took 9 years. Historians don't do math. What do I really care? The result of this is heavy taxes that the colonists have to pay for their protection in the service of the French and Indian War. Those taxes are what lead to the frustration and anger of taxation without representation and the principled argument that eventually ends up in the revolution. God Save the King, my country 'tis of thee. Just kind of funny that the British national anthem is actually a song that we have lyrics to as well. The Old North Bridge, shot heard round the world, are lines out of a poem by Ralph Waldo Emerson, I think. But more the symbolic concept of the first shot in the American Revolution and the American Revolution itself as a shot heard round the world, i.e. in a movement that gets copied and emulated elsewhere. Freedom of the press, an idea that certainly comes out of the colonial experience with the British at times, in a famous case in New York where they decide journalists do have the right to challenge the government. Treaty of Paris, there are 4 of them in U.S. history. Sorry, deal with it. But in Unit 1, there's French and Indian War. The 7 Years' War ends with the Treaty of Paris that kicks France out of the New World, mostly. And there's a Treaty of Paris that ends the American Revolution that essentially says the U.S. is now an independent country. And other one's a Quartering Act, pretty straightforward. Americans didn't like having forcibly hosting soldiers. The non-importation agreements. All right, these were some of the official terms for a number of the boycott documents that were signed where the colonists refusing or attempting to attack or hurt Britain economically by not importing their goods or boycotting them. Circular letters could be anything that are sent between the different extremist colonial firebrand troublemaking terrorist groups for you, although we have of course, a certain image when we think of terrorists. And these committees of correspondence are in different colonies. What are they doing? Well, committees of correspondence are committees of people corresponding with each other. And I have the kind of moderates in here. Understand that in American history there's this patriot or loyalist. Really, they mean the same thing. But in the colonies, the vast majority of people were probably more moderate. It certainly didn't want the extreme stage of independence from the country that gave the most rights to its citizens of anyone in the world at that time. So, though there's a war going on, and we have this notion of people in these 2 different camps, there's a lot of people that are there in the middle, as there always are historically. And finally, I think that's general. The notion of the Continental Army. Well, there's no United States, so no U.S. Army, so it was referred to as the Continental Army because, of course, the Continental Congress was the legislative body operating as for the Americans. Anyways, I'm hoping that helps with vocabulary. Feel free to come ask me anything else. And that's it from some guy in a Hawaiian shirt.